punk rock changed our lives.
Yeah, you're the first guest on the Infinitely Scalable podcast. That makes you super official.
Wow. Yeah. It's awesome.
Plus, it's like the best. What I was saying when I was muted, but nobody could hear me, was like, this is the biggest merry band of misfits. It's all four people who used to be employed by CrossFit, plus Andrew, who's still a loyal holdout.
Yeah, until the end of this.
Yeah. Everybody watching is going to be like, where is this conversation going to go? Because there's a lot of background information. If that camera was recording up to this, I think we would have a viral episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of history. No, I appreciate you guys having me on here, man. I'm excited to talk and catch up and see where the conversation goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we have no agenda, but I'll tell you where my interests lie. Well, I'm curious. So you were at CrossFit for what? How many
300 years?
Yeah, something like
305. No, so I started working with CrossFit 2007. Wasn't like a formal role yet because it was a completely different internship process, but it was an internship process. And the funny thing about that is I didn't really know I was in the internship process while I was in it, but I was. And that's kind of how loose it was back then, which was great, right? Because I was really the coolest thing about seminars back then, and whatever you want to call it, the level 2, the internship process was like you did it because it was fun and you loved it, and I didn't do it because I thought I was going to get a job from it. I had no idea, right? So then, formally brought on early 2008. Stepped away for a couple of years, worked with Assault Fitness as their director of education. So, it's probably 15, 17 years, something like that.
Dude, I forgot about that. I forgot I used to hit you up for Assault Fitness questions.
Yeah. Dude, they're an interesting brand. Like, got bought out and
interesting is an understatement.
Yeah, FitLab.
Yeah, there's a lot under that umbrella right now.
What's that?
There's a lot under that umbrella right now.
Oh, dude, they're just like a massive, fitness private equity firms buying up everything, and it's interesting. I mean, I think things like, I know we're just not where we're going. I know you had a different question, but I do think things like Laird Hamilton's brand is probably going to grow a little bit more and thrive a little bit more under their umbrella. They're kind of honing in that brand a little bit to something that is more recovery based, in and out of hot, cold, that kind of stuff, but doing it in studios. So I think what they're doing with some of these is pretty good.
Be careful, man. Huberman's coming out right now that cold tubs aren't good anymore.
Oh, man, listen, here's the thing. If I've learned anything about anything in all these years in fitness, is do whatever the fuck you want to do. Excuse my language. Are we allowed to curse on this thing?
Yeah, you can swear the fuck all
the thing. Like the amount of conflicting information that comes out in all levels of health and fitness. Hey, here's the line that to fucking follow is, if it's working for you and it's doing something good for you, then keep doing it. I don't give a shit what Andrew Huberman says, to be honest with you. I just don't. If I like it and it works well for me, then I'm going to keep doing it no matter what he says or anyone else says.
That's because you have a what's known as common sense.
Yeah. I think we need more of that, dude. Like, I'm so tired of all the guilting people into doing what works for you, and trying to, I just like all the just misinformation or conflicting information. I think there's so many differences between who we are, what we've done, what we're currently trying to do, what our goals are, what our genetics are, what our experiences are, to say that any one thing is going to work for every person. So I don't care. I don't even care what research says. If it works for me, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yep. Minus TRT. That's going to work for every male.
Yeah. Yeah, well, exactly.
Well, here's the thing. I think, Mike, you've been, in the CrossFit health space also, right, for quite some time. And for me, I was reflecting back on just some of the level 1 stuff. And I opened up this chapter here, What is Fitness, Part 1. And we have this, our old famous sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. And I look at just the measure, based on the measurements of, blood pressure, body fat, bone density. And I guess where I'm getting at is like, I'm looking at what kind of biomarkers should I be looking at. I'm looking because again, there's, like you said, Andrew Huberman. There's so many fucking people out there with different tests, different biomarkers that you need to pay attention to. And I'm just like, fucking, like, I'm saturated with all this information that I don't do anything about it. And I'm just like, fuck, well, what biomarkers should I look at? Like, I'm looking at the shit in level 1. I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. But then how do I measure that? What kind of test do I take? I'm kind of curious, since you've been in this space for quite some time, what should I be paying attention to?
Don't you think, like, I think about that too. And don't you think that depends on the person too, right? Like, you got to know a little
100%.
bit about the person to say what they should look at. Because, if I have a family history of heart disease, well, then I want to look at certain things, right? If I have a family history of osteopenia or sarcoma, whatever it might be that maybe lies within my, genetic predispositions or whatever it is, then that might dictate what I want to look at. I think for the average person, man, like, what do we need to look at? You have a pretty good resting heart rate, solid, right? Your body composition is in a pretty good spot, great. You have some decent lean muscle mass, awesome. You don't have a lot of visceral fat, hell yeah, dude. Blood sugars are right around the same spot, like a good spot, good. I mean, there's probably a handful that generally people should look at. The rest really depends on the individual. We got to know something about the individual first. We lost Tony, huh?
No, I'm back. I was disinterested in that. But what I was going to say is that, it's just back to medicine. Medicine without diagnosis is malpractice, right? And so it's funny to bring up that sort of statement in regards to it, because, like, to the point of this question, there's so many prescriptions now that just exist that are broad stroke, like, hey, you need to look at this number, do this thing, do that thing. And so, like, it's perfect for you to say, like, maybe we should just be looking at the person first. And I think, if we start with that part of the conversation in health, I think this is really what made CrossFit so elegant, which was that, like, just do this thing until performance seems to stifle or plateau to a point that we might need to look further underneath the hood, because that's the point, right? Like, you keep intake to levels to support activity and decrease body fat, right? You should be sleeping at night. You should be able to be active during the day. You should be able to do all these things that are in support of a higher quality of life. In the event that we can't get to that point, we look under the hood. Or if we get to that point and we can't get beyond that point, we look under the hood. But there's now a lot of people who have put almost this perfect in the way of good thing, where they're like, I got to go get all this information, get these panels, do this blood work, do all these stuff. I'm like, maybe we just start working out, right? Like, and back to your point, like, and what that looks like for you, it doesn't matter. Just start moving every single day. And when these metrics move, and I think back to Jay's question is, maybe a better question is, what are good performance indicators that are pretty universally applicable to all humans? Like, regardless of what you choose to do for activity, what are we looking for in terms of, like, basic human performance or improvements? We can be like, okay, we're on track, off track. When we can't get to those numbers, we need to either ramp up intensity, ramp up strength, or look into blood work, or look into medicine, or look into prescription. I guess, so that kind of goes in a couple of different ways, but I think the most important part there is, you nailed it, Mike, is that, why aren't we looking at the person first? How did we all of a sudden forget? This goes back to, like, my side of things with the business. To come into your business and make assumptions as to what you need, because these are universal truths in business, would be malpractice on my end. But it's exactly what everybody does to help your business. They're like, oh, you just need to do lead gen. You got to do this. You got to get everybody to bring a friend in. You got to, all these other things. But, like, why is nobody appreciating the individuality of anything anymore? We think everything is broad stroke, and that's everything. A big part of it.
Everything, dude. I've been very aware of the messaging that I've been seeing just through social lately. And I think that's the thing that pisses me off the most, is how general the message is. Like, I look at some of the messaging going towards men. You got to wake up at 4 a.m. You got to start with a workout. You got to go in the club. Like, fuck you for sleeping in. Work hard every day, all day. That's all that matters. If you can't do that, you're a piece of shit. Like, fuck off, dude. No.
I hate it.
No,
get ready.
That's not right,
you got your soapbox?
I'm not going to say that it doesn't work for some people. It might. Good. But it's not, doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody falls into that little bucket, you know? Some people like to sleep in bucket. Some people like to sit still and hang out with family. And some people are happy with where they are right now.
Believe
Fuck
it or
yeah,
not.
dude. Kudos to those people. You know, like that. I think we need more of that shit.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe
why
people
you're.
want performance, man. I'm like, fuck. I think about this all the time. When do I have to stop trying to perform better in the gym?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus, right? Like,
We got a topic for this whole episode because ain't that the truth? Like when
well,
did
dude.
when?
dude, I'm telling you right now, I'm tired of smashing myself. Tired of it. I don't like it anymore, dude. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to feel like that anymore. I'm happy with going in my garage and just working out and actually like feeling good about it. But the problem is I'm still not perfect at it, and it's taken me a while to get there because I constantly feel guilty for not walking out of my workout session feeling like I punched myself in the face 16 times. You know what I mean? Like, God.
Wow.
No, 45. I feel like I'm fit enough. I'm good, dude. I don't need much more. I could go run a 50K. I can squat still. I can, you know what I mean? I can go hike a mountain. I'm going to go climb. I have the fitness I need. I just want to maintain that shit now. I don't need to get any better. I don't care.
Totally.
When you did your, we'll get into the 60 minutes. When you did your, your, what do we call that? What's it called?
Psychedelics.
Official. When you did your psychedelic,
Journey.
Journey.
The
Yeah.
journey.
So why I resonated so much is because I know you personally. We've spent some good time together. We've had some great conversations, and I have this new theory that it's called no one's coming to save you, but no one's coming after you. And in that, it's performance based. So a person like me, I didn't have father, so I was always looking for my coaches for male approval. Like I've nailed that. Any therapist will tell you whatever, but to an unhealthy degree and level. And because I felt no protection, because otherwise I'm like, someone's going to come for my scholarship spot. Someone's going to come kill my mom in her sleep. Someone's going to, it doesn't matter where you go. There was no protection piece. Now, what's romanticized in male culture is that if I go talk to a David Goggins and be like, fuck yeah, dude, at 7 years old, you were in the basement working on your dribbling drills and going to run a mile because you felt like you were fat, like things like that. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, that is not that cool. That's really it. Because if you don't understand how to undo that, when you become a father, when you become a husband, when you become a business owner, you will live with some nasty, nasty trauma that will come out in ways that you can't even understand or experience. And so with fitness, what I really like about Pinoy, which I know Tony and Carrie are crushing some stuff and working with them, is like the Pinoy doesn't lie to you immediately when you start working out with it on your face. And it starts to really go, hey, you're actually very stressed out. And you're like, but I'm fit, dude. Hold on, I can do Fran. I can. No. Your body's saying something different.
Yeah.
Your body's saying, hey, you're smashing yourself, and it's not very good for you at the moment. Maybe you need to like bring it back down. And what's cool is, you have to get to a level though where you've smashed yourself enough to understand what that truly is. So like most people don't get that. They still have to go because they're lazy. You go walk in Walmart, I see thousands of lazy people. We haven't hit them up yet. So they're owed to get in there and smash for a couple of years. But us, we're kind of on the other side, right? Like we need to actually work the skill of chill. So that was amazing.
My God. Man. Yeah. The skill of chill. I'll tell you what, dude, like that has been, I'd say that the last 2 months, got a lot of people ask, like, what are you up to? And that's it, man. Like I'm up to nothing purposefully. That's what I'm up to. And it's hard. It's hard. Like it's one of the hardest things to do is sit still. Because dude,
because you're bad at it.
Well, you're bad at it. And like what you essentially, to summarize, in my opinion, of everything you just said is like, we do a lot of shit out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I train hard out of fear. I go after the next degree or course or whatever it is out of fear, dude. I don't want to be irrelevant. I don't want to look stupid. I got to be in good shape. I'm worried about what people look at, how people look at me, what they think of me, my job, all these fucking things, dude. And everything you do is out of fear. And the hardest thing to do is just fucking sit there. We're afraid of it. So let's do something. Got to do something. What's the next thing I can do? What can I do? dude. And I feel like in that constant, race, like you never get anywhere, dude. There's no end to that. When you're reacting out of fear, there's no end. You're going to just constantly have a reaction to something. You know what I mean? And the hardest thing for me to do has been to sit still. But I think my hypothesis is that in sitting still, I'll really figure out what is right for me to do. What that right path is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I've been doing, dude. And it's been great. It's hard, but it's been great.
I love that I asked, how long were you at CrossFit? And ultimately I was headed here. And as Jay asked his question, I was like, no, stress.
We're on
stress.
track.
How are we not? Because that's the thing, right? Like, I think, to everybody's point, it's like, yeah, like everybody walks in the gym, you look good. We all know the people that like, you know how they look and you're like, I know you're missing a piece of the pyramid. I don't know what it is. We likely know it's probably nutrition. And then you just know that by view. But the thing we can't see, and you can kind of see as you start to have deeper conversations with people, is what's the underlying stress level? How are you actually showing up in the world? Like, you can see the people that come in, like freaked out, and every bit of their cadence, their timing is rushed because it's, I'm here to perform to please my ego or whatever it is. But like that, when you start to see that calmness in people, like that's when you're like, oh yeah, I don't know. You just like, for me, I start to see myself in other people and I'm like, yeah, we're good. Like, we can talk about whatever we want. We, like working out, not working out. Cause I mean, working out's just the nice thing that you get to do. Like, if you're smashing yourself, well, you're probably shooting that cortisol up. And like, is that where we want to be? Like, I don't know. Probably not. Like, to what end are we chasing fitness or the successes in life? And so I think we all need a lot more of that chill.
Dude, I agree. I mean, I think it's that old statement that it's funny, like to look back on how you understood a statement and then get to a point in life and understand it completely differently, right?
Yeah.
So men will die for points. I'm like, fuck, dude, like I want to come in the gym and be that stressed out every day. Men will die for points. I'm going to fucking hammer myself to try to beat everybody around me for what? So I can tell everybody I beat them?
Mm-hmm.
This is a big pause, though. It's a big pause. It's a big pause in the pyramid because I know you, and my psychological podcast that doesn't exist and never will. That is no excuse to be lazy, though, and we as men are not excusing that.
There is a difference in understanding why, right? Why am I doing
Right.
Why am I doing these things? Is what I'm doing, like, is it making me better? Is it making me happier? All those things. But if the sole purpose of it is ego driven,
Yeah,
dude, let me tell you something. When the day comes where you're not on top anymore, you're fucked.
yeah.
You're fucked. It will crush you. Your identity is based on what you do in the gym, dude. No. Let me tell you the best thing about the gym for me now is it allows me to do what I want to do out there.
Right.
That's great. It supports the rest of my life. I don't put my life on hold to be in the gym anymore. I don't want to snowboard because I might get hurt. I can't do fucking CrossFit workouts, right? I got to get my CrossFit workouts. So I'm not going to hang out with my kids on Saturday. Like, that shit doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
I work out so I can do shit out there. So we can go on hikes. We can have these trips. I can take some fucking time off. Like, that's why I work out. It has to support the rest of your life. That was the whole reason for all this shit. But when everything is based now on what happens within those four walls of the gym, like, dude, you've lost it. You've lost the real essence of what the hell we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I do think, listen, I will tell you right now, I walk into affiliates, there are plenty of people that don't think like this. That they just come to the gym, they work out, they fucking go home, and it is what it is. They don't care about the leaderboard. There are plenty of them, and it's great.
Yeah.
So when I talk like this, I'm likely not talking about the majority.
Well, yeah.
Not at all.
It's this
But
group
you
of
can take
people,
it.
right?
but you guys get it because there are a lot of us that are in this position.
People like us do things like this, right? I mean, we are quite literally at this point, almost this podcast at this point is like a support group moment, right? Because like we're speaking directly to each of us because we've all essentially transcended or walked through that valley individually, but collectively at the same time. All of us here are essentially 20-year CrossFitters, right? We're in an era of CrossFit now, this epoch where there are 2-decade CrossFitters, and all of us that are in that genre, me, you, Carrie, Spieler, the list goes on. Everybody's like, you know what? I fucked up. Regularly learn and play new sports was way more important than I thought it was, right? Like we all forgot, like, oh, it's supposed to go outside. Because like at the core of this whole thing, back to Andrew's point of like bringing it back and kind of how he's touched on, trauma to some degree, like what we're talking about in this stressor is effectively like all of us are looking for essentially some sort of stimulus, right? Like all this really is displaced stimulus seeking, right? Where for most of us, we found a way to bury ourselves in some degree of self benefit or self improvement that felt good up until the point of like a law of diminishing returns. But yet we continue to seek the same stimulus, I don't know, hoping for continued successes. And really all that comes back to is that if fear is the thing that drives us, which for all of us on this support group is to some degree, right? Like all of us are here, mine is I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like, Andrew's always waiting to not lose something. And so like those things make us make decisions in support of fear as opposed to in support of, betterment of the future. And so like if we get into the core of the whole thing and back to like fun versus not fun in the gym, like one of the things that I've been very focused on since the launch of Fit Affiliate is the distraction traction continuum, which is really how we help the affiliates. But in that is a bigger part of the conversation because what we're talking about is using fitness as something to react to, as a distraction, because it's endless stimulus. There is never an end to what you can do or work on or get better at or chase or crush yourself over until you can constantly respond to it. Or do we use fitness as an intentional tool, right? And that's what you're talking about now, Mike, which is like, I use the fitness intentionally now so that I can go play. I can go in the mountains. I can go ride the bike, do the hike, do the thing. And that's like all of life, right? Like, and I think some of us, in a group like this, we'll pat ourselves in the back and call ourselves high performers. Although I think all of us don't think that we are high performers, right? Which is the irony in this. We're like, I could work harder, right? Like I got more stuff to do, right? But to get to this point, the big transition is like, hey, we don't need distress in our life. We can chase more like eustress, right? We can chase more good stress, more good intention. Like let's use the thing that we have, used maybe maliciously and nefariously in terms of beating ourselves up, and let's use it a little bit more intentionally, and let's go after good stresses. I like things that you find at 2 a.m. in the mountains with your friends, or like you find on the ski slope, or you find, hiking with your significant other. That's the point of all of this stuff. But I think it's cool when, maybe it's just because we're all old now and some of us have more gray in our beards than before, but we've all calmed down.
I shaved before this, so.
Yeah, well, I know what you got going on over there. It's okay, right? But like we've all calmed down, and it's such a beautiful thing to see so many. It's not just this girl, but like so many rugged humans soften.
Totally.
Like people who just were so just outwardly just, I've got this, I'm gonna win, I'm alpha. It's between like, hey, want to go play? And that to me is one of the most beautiful things that's happened inside CrossFit is all of us just grew up in it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've calmed down yet.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, but in here,
You're the
Tony,
baby.
you know why?
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. You know why we're like that? You'll like this, Mike. That human beings, there's a book out, how we evolved with the seasons. There's theories on we act the way we do due to the seasons, and you put that in seasons of life, and the seasons of life for a male from 20 to 42, and you can go in any direction a few years. It's called the summer, and essentially, the person doing the study was like, there was a time and point in life if all the 20 to 42-year-old males died, the civilization would crumble. to exist. So if you think about it, we're still naturally carrying that weight. Like, right? I mean, today in 2025, remove all the 20 to 42-year-old biological males from the earth. What happens? Yikes. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like we're special in any way, but it's the whole who's going to carry the boats, you know? So we've been responding to that, and we responded to it in a way of like aggression and, you know, fear.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
the
like we
displaced
were just
stimulus
doing,
seeking, right?
yeah,
Like
we were just
that's where it all
doing
comes
what we're
from.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with you.
I-
I thought for sure you were going to say there's a book out and it was the Bible. But so glad that you
The
brought
Bible.
a different
Didn't
one.
go back biblical that.
We'll get a Bible reference at some point from Andrew in this call. We always do. But I agree, like 100% with
Sure.
what you're saying. I mean, whether or not it's the seasons or otherwise, like we do live in a time when life is incredibly comfortable. So humans as a species, all of us, we seek stimulus, right? And those of us who have
Suffering.
yeah, I mean, those of us who have something to move away from, I think, seek it a little bit differently. The rest of us, I think, go after it a little bit more proactively.
I think for me, it was this notion. I mean, this notion of work capacity. You know, I'm a kid that I didn't have any when growing up, right? Like I
Yeah.
was a lazy fucker. Like my default setting, just to be a lazy ass, you know, person that just avoids things. But
Same.
what CrossFit did for me was just it kind of inculcated this
Great
carrying
word.
large loads, long distances, and quickly, increasing work capacity across broad time modal domain. That to me, oh shit, it made sense. Like I can do this in the physical domain, in the physical province, but then I can also pop it up as an abstraction and point it to every area of my life. And it seemed like I was generating power. I was generating work capacity. And that to me, I saw a huge increase in not only my productivity, but my life began to change in a positive way. And I was like, oh shit, maybe there's something to this. So kind of overcorrected, doubled down on that notion, but over time, just doing, and not doing what Matt or Mike said, was just to kind of like reflect and be in some stillness, you know, instead of continue to fucking do and push.
Yeah.
For me, it's just like, yeah, I fucking burn out. And when I burned out, I was just like, fuck, okay, now what? Like, this is what I know to be true. And I just want to continue to keep pushing hard because that's how I think I'm getting better, right? I'm going to achieve more results. And that's not the case. And I'm seeing that now. And so I'm having a tough time balancing the doing mode and the being mode. You know, because I'm so weighed into the doing, but I get it. What you're saying, Mike, like being is a whole different realm that could contribute to better doing. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, you know, it's interesting. It aligns really well with the idea of fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. And I see that in this kind of fitness realm as well, where like fluid intelligence, and we have this skill set, we have these strengths, whatever it might be. Typically, it's cognitively, but we can talk about it in the fitness realm or whatever, wherever, in all aspects of our life. Like we take our strengths, we can continue to try to develop them and push forward and get better and better and better. And that's this idea of fluid intelligence, right? We're going to get better and kind of grow intellectually to a point. And we reach a point where we can no longer keep up with the younger people when it comes to the things that we were even really good at some point.
Yeah.
And what we have to do at that point is take this fluid intelligence and crystallize it. And then what you become is like, well, you have wisdom.
Yeah.
You become a mentor. You teach lessons. And like, I think in sitting still and being like, well, shit, dude, all these metrics of success that can be helpful. I'm not saying you shouldn't go after money and you shouldn't go after a bigger house. You shouldn't go after cars. You shouldn't go after all these things, you know, or more fitness, or whatever the hell it is. I'm not saying you should never go after those things. In fact, I think at some point in our lives, we need a hierarchy to move up. But then we get to a point where it's like, hey, guess what, dude? At this point in my life, nobody gives a shit about any of that stuff for me. You know what I mean? Like, let me ask you guys this. Do you know what truck I drive? Do you guys know what I drive? How big my house is? How much money I make? Like, nobody fucking cares. And if I told you, it wouldn't change how you think about me. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what, dude? I don't care. But those are no longer my metrics of success. And being the fittest falls in there as well. My metrics of success now are the relationships that I continue to strengthen with my loved ones and my friends. And that's the kind of stuff that really is important to me now. And I also have, and it's also like wisdom and passing these lessons down. Like that's become super important to me. One of the things that I was asked recently was like, what do you enjoy doing outside of like hiking and all that shit that we do is like little activities? For like work, what do you enjoy doing? And it's this shit, dude. Honestly, what I love doing now is taking all the shit that I've learned in the last 45 years and talking about it. And I don't mean like teaching in the way that I'm going to tell you that I've experienced everything and you need to listen to me because it's the way to do it. It's just being able to pass down these lessons, pass down some wisdom and let people do whatever the hell they want to do with it. Like that's the shit. That's where I'm at now. And that's that idea of kind of crystallized intelligence. You actually become more of a teacher than the person that's trying to fucking constantly move up the hierarchical ladder. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a point where we all get to. It's beautiful, actually, dude, if you let yourself get there. Because there's all of us, man, at certain points of our life, we have a story to share that somebody's going to learn from. They're going to relate to it. They're going to extract some lessons from it, and it will help them. That's awesome.
How do you get there though? Do you think that's the time that you spent on relationship to self that got you there?
Yeah, man, I think gosh, what got me there? Well, we can kind of circle back to a question. I don't even remember what the question was, but it was something about psychedelics, right? Did we talk about psychedelics?
Yeah.
A little
I
bit.
think
It was brief.
I think I kind of went somehow, but maybe we made it back to this thing. And it's taken me 10, 11 months to realize that, you know, like I said before, most of my decisions in life are based off of fear. And when I went to Mexico and did what I did, I was faced with a extremely condensed, you know, or concentrated, let's say, concentrated experience of fear, where the tiny little bits of fear that I feel daily that force me to keep my walls up and protect myself and keep tension within the body, like that stuff came like that, dude. It fucking hit me in the face hard. And if you saw the video, it hit me so hard, dude, that I was shaking. I didn't know what to do. My body had no idea how to react to this. It just tensed up and like a massive contraction just started to shake. And the only way I could get through that fear and to the other side was by learning how to let go. Like, and I know that's like an overused term, but it's exactly what it was, dude. Letting fucking go. Let go. You're not in any, like, there's no threat. All these perceived threats, they don't exist. I'm in not any trouble.
No one's coming to get you.
Nobody's coming to get you. Right? And that was the first little journey I went on. The second one was really interesting, dude. It was started off the same way where, man, it was just dark and scary. And I was like, goodness gracious, man, I don't want to go back here. I just don't want to go back here. And the dude that was leading the ceremony, I don't know if you saw, but we're blindfolded, so I can't see who's around me. I don't know what the hell's going on with anybody else. All I'm doing is looking internally. And when I looked internally, it was dark and it was scary, and that's how I saw life. That's how I saw the world. The world is dark and scary, dude. Protect yourself. People are coming to get you. People want to grab stuff from you. People are holding you down. You know, people are going to die around you. Like, all that stuff, man. People are judging you nonstop. Have your walls up. That's how life was for me. And I'm sitting there and I'm going back to this place, and he walks up, dude. He has no idea potentially where I am in this experience. And he just puts his hand on my chest and he says, hey, open up your heart. And there was something about that statement, is maybe as cheesy as it sounds, that made a lot of sense to me, right? Like, have a little fucking grace for yourself, dude. You know what I mean? Like, open up your heart, accept the love and the support that people are constantly trying to give you, love yourself a little bit so you can actually accept that stuff, right? Give yourself a little grace and then learn how to give that back to other people around you. And dude, that's what got me to this place was love.
Yeah.
And what love is to me, love is putting yourself in a position where you can, what I think, when somebody loves you, what they do is they see a version of you that is, they see potential. They see potential in you that you don't see anymore. You don't see it, right? That's what love is. So when I'm loved by my kids and my wife and my family, when I'm not accepting it, when my heart's closed, that shit pisses me off because you're telling me something about myself that I don't believe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like myself. And you're telling me I'm good. And you're telling me I can do these things. And you're telling me that you see some potential in me that I don't see it. And I'm not willing to accept it. So I can't accept love. When you can open up your heart and give yourself some grace and actually have some love for yourself, then you can accept that stuff, dude. And then I can, when somebody is providing me support and telling me something about myself, seeing a version, seeing some potential in me that I don't see yet, I can lean into that. I can have some belief in that. And I think that was like, dude, letting those walls down, loving and letting myself be loved brought me to the place I am today. And that was huge.
That's awesome. I love that. There's a lot of acceptance. So there's a lot of acceptance and allowance and sitting in the uncomfortable to get there.
Totally.
Right. And like put that in the smallest form possible. Like I have an emotion, I have a feeling that ultimately might be just a story that I'm telling myself, right? A story I'm telling myself about myself, a story I'm telling myself about, one of you and what you think about me. And it's nothing you've said. It's just, I'm going to create that story for myself. And so now I'm uncomfortable because I'm sitting with that emotion or feeling, and I can distance myself from it. I can do my busy work. I can totally tune out to it. I can go grab a beer. I can move on to something else, or I can just sit with it and try and be present and go, oh, that's my shit. That's my story. I don't believe, that story. I choose not to believe it, and then allow it. And you're just, and it passes. It's like if you are, you're addicted to anything, right? Like sugar. Like you're like, I want that thing right now. And then you let that moment pass for 30 minutes. You've probably forgotten about it. You filled it with something else anyway, but you sat with it, you dealt with it, you didn't immediately give into the craving. And that allowance is how you get through everything.
Dude, 100%. And you figure out what this common story is you tell yourself, right? But I think for me, it wasn't immediate. It was going to Mexico and having that experience, and it was over months. And over months, these feelings would pop up again, right? But
the same ones. Hold on, Mike, to be clear, the same ones that you felt during the psychedelic experience.
Right. And I started to understand, so I understood, well, one, I was terrified in that psychedelic experience. Terrified. So when these feelings started to pop up on everyday, in everyday activities, right before, for decisions that I was making on a daily level, then started to realize how often I was afraid, like how fear controlled me. And then I started to really think about what was I afraid of. And the story that kept popping up was like embarrassment and shame. Dude, like I judgment from other people. Like I'm constantly embarrassed about something, or I feel shame. I'm embarrassed because I don't have a nicer car. I'm embarrassed I'm not in the position I thought I was going to be in my career. I'm embarrassed because I think people think I'm a failure. I feel shame because I don't like all these different things. And it kept popping up. And those are shitty emotions, dude. Nobody likes to feel those things. So instead of feeling them, talking about them, trying to understand, are they real? Do I really have anything to be embarrassed of? Because I don't, right? Like, I wasn't happy. I'll give you an example. Driving, my car broke down. My wife's parents, my in-laws had to take my daughters and then drive them home. And I'm like, well, I'm a fucking piece of shit, dude. They're judging me. My wife's judging me. I got this shitty car. I can't support anybody. Can't support her. I can't support my kids. I'm fucking embarrassed. No, dude.
This is post psychedelic.
Yes.
Right?
The car broke down. And when you go to a place to get it fixed, there are brand new cars in there that also broke down. Like, it has nothing to do with me. It's just the car overheated. Who gives a shit, right? But dude, it wrecked me for a short amount of time until I can tell my wife, like, hey, I'm embarrassed. Like, I know I have nothing to be embarrassed of, but I'm fucking embarrassed, man. And I feel shame about all of this. And then by opening up, dude, and if, like I said, if you can let people love you and you can actually listen to them and believe them, and she can say, look, it's no big deal. Like, we're all in this together. It's you and me. We'll fucking get rid of this shitty ass car. We'll get another car. It doesn't matter. And and you believe it. And before I wouldn't believe that. I just, and the other part of this too, where I was going before, I'm kind of jumping around, is like shame and embarrassment, dude. Like, those are very vulnerable emotions. We don't like to tell people we're embarrassed. We don't like to tell people that we feel shame. We substitute those emotions with anger. I walked around fucking pissed off all the time, dude. Mad at the world. Wake up mad, want to tear the world down because I wasn't willing to accept that story. Wasn't willing to understand and communicate shame and embarrassment. More acceptable emotion is anger. I'm fucking pissed. I'm pissed at work. I'm pissed at the world. I'm pissed at my act. Like, it doesn't matter, dude. I'm mad. I'm mad at everybody. It's not, dude. Like, why am I mad at all those other areas? Because I feel some level of embarrassment and shame about the relationship that I have with them. That's it.
Dude, everything you've said, I have said to a therapist at least a few times. This is so fun and cool. And you want to know what's funny? And I think why you and I because when we hung out for a weekend, I remember thinking, like, dude, if I was there during that car thing, like, I would have been like, oh, you saw a nice car. I'd have just told you, dude, people who buy new cars might be idiots because they can't afford it. You actually are doing the valuable thing by driving that car because you're supporting your family, because you're worth a ton, because you thought about them first, right? It's just like, once you have those really weird, but also that's not to say I got my shit together. It's just like, that was your feedback loop and you didn't have anything to bounce it off of that. And it's not rational. When you have that shame and self-hate, it's not rational, but also there's the element of let's ruminate on it. Let's keep thinking about it. And then you're going to love this one. I hope you use it next time. You've seen Big Lebowski?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Fuck it. Let's go bowling. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it, like, let's go bowling over the line, like, that's where you have to go, because you can rational. Okay, I'm doing good. I shouldn't buy a new car anyway. Financially hurt my family. I'm doing the right thing by doing this. Let's go bowling. You got to go one way or another. You can't stay in the middle and ruminate.
Yeah. Dude, it's the kind of what you said about it not being rational in the rumination. And what I found with that, and just my, limited understanding of the brain, is that when we don't feel safe enough, let's say, to talk about this with somebody, to say, hey, I am embarrassed, I do feel shame, whatever it is, those emotions just kind of hang out in the kind of limbic system of the brain, right? It's just a reaction. It's this nonstop fucking reaction. You're thinking about it, you're ruminating about it. But when I can sit down with my wife and say, hey, here's how I'm feeling, it takes it to the prefrontal cortex. And now that's where rationality takes place, right? And now I can rationalize these feelings and be like, wait a minute, just like you said, I'm like, oh, I'm embarrassed about this. Well, fuck, do I really have anything to be embarrassed about? It's a car. broke down. Right? I brought it in there. It got fixed. Like, who the fuck cares? Nobody's going to judge me because my car broke down.
Totally.
You know, but before you can do that, if you don't feel that, you know, that connection or safe enough to really express, well, first of all, understand what you're feeling and then communicate that to another person, it just sits there, dude. It just sits there and you think about it. And you know why we think about it? You know why we ruminate? We ruminate, dude, because rumination is actually a very protective thing. If I think about constantly the things that have fucking hurt me in the past, if that's the case 2,000 years ago, thousands of years ago, whatever it is, then I'm always ready for that thing again because life was always coming at me in that way, right? Like if I'm like, fuck, man, that lion sucked. And I'm going to think about this fucking lion that almost tore my leg off all the damn time. I'm ready for that lion again. I'm on alert because at any moment that thing can jump out at me. Dude, that's not the way it is, dude. Like I don't need that. I don't need to ruminate over my car breaking down. I don't need to ruminate over what my boss said to me or the fight I had with my ex. Like, I don't have to ruminate about that shit anymore. I can talk to somebody about that. I can rationalize about that. I can understand that it's not a real threat. Fucking move on now.
Yeah. I think the insidious thing of words like shame and embarrassment too is they're like self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Like for those of us who have, you know, I too deal with it substantially in they're the two hardest words to say out loud when you're feeling those emotions. Like it's easy to be like, I'm mad, right? Or I'm sad. Right. Like those things are easy to project. It is incredibly, at least for me and for people that I know who suffer from it, to say, I'm embarrassed, right? Because that gives ownership to it. Same thing with, and then to say I'm ashamed is like an even deeper level of it. And so what's fun about that, or not fun, but fascinating, is how easy those of us who deal with this can find those things to prove that we have something to be embarrassed about or ashamed of, right? Like something as simple as my car overheating. Someone who doesn't deal with shame or embarrassment would be like, well, this is annoying, right? They'd be frustrated. But for those of us who deal with that, we're like, this somehow is a reflection of me. And at one point, my therapist had said to me, trauma is essentially anything outside your ability to cope. It's essentially what ends up happening is we accept a lie as a truth and live our life based on that truth. And so like you take a situation, car breaks down, we have a complete different interpretation of it. Now I'm a failure because my car overheated. Nothing that I could have likely done to save that, but I'm going to spend my next week, year, 10 years avoiding breaking down on the side of the road, right? It just becomes one of those things. And so I think full circle on that, one of the reasons, well, one, I wanted to bring you on the podcast because I owed you a handful of conversations. I was like, might as well record it. That'll be fun, right? But I also knew where, like, you know, you and I have had some great conversations, and I wanted to bring you on here, you know, because I was hoping we would get to this point, which was effectively like kind of the narrative of becoming, right? Because like so many of us are so obsessed with being, we want to be in that moment because we're trying to avoid whatever other thing we are, right? We're ashamed, we're embarrassed, or it is what it is. And I think now we're all in a time, and I know at least you are, in a space and in a freedom where you're working on becoming as opposed to being. And like that to me is a very beautiful space to observe and watch you be in. And I think it's really cool to see, let's call it 5 type A dudes on this thing. If you're watching this, you know, all working through our own version of vulnerability in space and patience with ourselves and stillness and becoming, because it's so much easier for us to just be, right? Super intense, be in that moment, do the thing, do the shit out of it, and hope to avoid it. And like the point of this podcast, you know, the name of it being infinitely scalable, obviously applies to business, but so much of this conversation, especially with our clients, is the thing that gets them in the way of scaling, right? But what we're talking about now is like, you know, this is your ability now to infinitely scale Mike G's life, right? Because you were capped. I was capped. Carrie was capped. Andrew's capped. He just doesn't know yet because he's still a baby. He doesn't have to shave yet, right? You know, but we've all been capped because we bring these things with us, this backpack of our bullshit, and it's so heavy that we can't go higher. And so, like, so many people don't understand that, like, hey, it's not that you got to go in, you got to go in the jungle and take psychedelics, but there is something but you might want to. I mean, just saying, it's
but I think that's a point, and it's a great point. It's like, look, dude, psychedelics aren't like a magic pill. It doesn't prevent you from suffering, right? Like you're still going to suffer, dude. Like that's just part of life. It gives you some tools though. Right. And and for people who need those tools, like some people can do it without psychedelics. Fuck yeah, dude. Awesome. And I think that's great, but it'll give you some tools. It'll give you some tools to better understand yourself and to knock down some walls, give you better way to understand and feel what's going on and communicate it. I think that's a pretty powerful thing.
And also, Mike, the people who have successfully used psychedelics, like you're saying, a lot of them describe their most powerful experiences outside of when they did it. You know, you look at someone where you look at Aubrey Marcus, or I've talked to Bill a few times, where outside of doing it, you know, after the ceremonies, you know, well over, et cetera, they in a sauna or something like that went through an even deeper experience out of nowhere. Or, you know, it's just because you have the tools now to maybe revisit and do that every once in a while if needed. So that's a good statement, because a lot of times I hear it, I'm like, fuck, I think I need to jump out of a plane and do psychedelics. Like I'll like literally go through
Separate
that, and then separate maybe, and then I'll be like, wait, or I can just really look my 2-year-old in the eye when he's like making me feel insecure because I'm like, man, I want to explode right now because I'm so mad, and like and just be present. You know what I mean? Like there's times where you can, yeah. So I mean, it's just such a weird.
That's a whole. If we get into the kids story, that's a whole nother episode maybe, because what you just said is super powerful. And like, be present, and what does that mean with your kids? And dude, that's a whole nother thing I learned from this experience was patience with my kids. And look, kids have responsibilities. I'm never going to take their responsibilities away from them. And my kids need to respect me, and I will parent them out of this need to respect me, but I will not parent them out of fear. They will not fear me. And I do not want them walking through the day and coming into this house fearing their father. I think that sucks, but they will respect me, and they have a list of things that they need to do. But when they do those things, man, I want my kids to be comfortable being themselves. So when they're in here, like my youngest one, Stevie, she's Stevie, dude. Like in all ways, I want her to be able to be comfortable in being her. And the same thing with my oldest. And I think that's been super powerful, because a lot of times fear, again, when our kids are being themselves and it doesn't necessarily align with what we think they should be at that moment, right? Like a shitty example of this is like my youngest daughter. She didn't want to fucking ski, dude. Like we went to the mountains and she didn't want to ski. She didn't fucking want to. And I'm like, no, you should be skiing. Like we're here. Everyone's judging me. Like fucking get on the mountain. Let's go. And she just wants to build snowmen. She's just stoked to be in the snow. She wants to build a family of snowmen. And I'm like, wait a minute, dude. Go build snowmen. Hell yes. Like, why do I feel the need to make you do this? You don't want to do it right now. You're not going to be happy doing it. I'm going to be miserable making you do it. But I let you go over here and build snowmen, dude, and you're smiling and glowing and talking about it. And we're taking pictures, and you want to show me, like, dude. That's what, like, you know what I mean? And obviously, shitty.
As a parent, I think we get so caught in that idea, or literally anything, but like of wanting to control someone else and control their experience, even if you know what the best thing is, right? Like we drove all this way. This is a trip. You're going to want to ski. That's going to be the memory. But the memory maybe is I just had a fucking great time in the snow building snowmen or literally doing anything. But it's so hard to trust the young brain that like you made the right decision, but it's ultimately like just their decision. And like to even take that back to like the car, it's like, oh, the car broke down. Outside of your control. It says nothing about who you are as a human. Like completely outside of this little sphere. What you get to control is how you show up in that moment, right? Oh, like I can start kicking the tires and be pissed and like slamming shit. Or, because you said you had your girls with you, right? Like, it's like, oh, well, guys, I don't have any control over this. This sucks. Like, I gotta call, grandparents, and they're gonna come grab you. Like, you can't plan it. It just shit happens. Like,
you know what's funny? Say it out loud. I do this with my wife all the time. My son will come up. Do you want to play Magna Tiles with me? I'm like, God, I say it out loud for fun. If you only knew the shit I had to fucking do today, that's the last fucking thing I want to do right now is to go pick up those damn magnetiles and be in an uncomfortable position when I'm overstimulated, like women say. And now I'm a woman. I feel like a woman. Let's go play magnetiles. And then you just get your fucking ass on the ground. And that's carrying the boats. You know, that's what men don't understand, especially when their fathers. Like, that was literally the most impressive thing I did, was to do that, because no one saw it. It's all on integrity. It's all on discipline. None of which, do they have to know I worked out at 5 a.m. probably harder than they could ever dream? Absolutely not. I don't care. I freaking played magnetiles when I really didn't want to. And then those are the things where if you build confidence, that's what we should be feeling. Instead, well, what's my car look like? How much money do I have? What did I? It's like, yeah.
Well, this podcast is making me realize there's a lot of work that I need to do on myself. It's one of those things where if I played the tape, and if I, don't do something that I'm supposed to do, that I should do, that I ought to do, I beat myself up. I go into that self-hatred mode, and how I take it out on myself is through fitness. And I'm just realizing this now. Like, I will beat myself up in the gym just so that the pain could allow me to get me into it, acceptance, into let go. Like, that's the thing, that's the driver. Hit the gym hard, go through an intense workout. Then I'm like, right? Because I'm not taking anything. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I'm not doing any drugs. But that is my drug, right? Just so that I can fucking let go. Right?
This becomes your control, man. Like, look, there's a lot of pain outside of the gym that we don't have a lot of control over. Like, I've experienced a lot of it in my life. I don't have control over that shit, dude. But when I went in the gym, I'd fucking hammer myself. I'd feel all the pain I could possibly feel. I wanted the heaviest weights on my back. I wanted to lay down on the ground, seizuring out after a workout. I wanted that pain because I could control that pain. I had full control over it. And that made me feel good, dude. It did. It made me feel like there's finally a pain that I can control in life. And that was my sole motivation a lot of times for just fucking, I would put on music that reminded me of the worst moments of my life. And it typically wasn't like, it was weird, dude. It wasn't like hard metal. It was some sad ass fucking song that was like emo song that made me, like, brought me back to the moments where, dude, like, the walls
rage bait yourself.
on me. And that's where I wanted to be. Dude, imagine that. Like, just fucking making yourself revisit that over and over again. Dude, the gym and nothing wrong with training hard. I think people should. Obviously, there's amazing benefits to hard training. But it's not your therapy.
You got to go back to intention, right? I mean, I think you're absolutely right. And back to Andrew's point, like, you don't get to be lazy, and like, there's value in it. And the difference is just using it constructively or otherwise. And like, Jay, first of all, I think it's beautiful that like you did have that epiphany, and this is like, I have work to do, which is, that makes me feel good that like the product that we do put out, people hopefully do get the same thing out of it, because it is such an interesting thing to be on your own journey. And I don't think many of us spend a lot of time focusing so much on our journey. We're trying so hard to get away from something or get to something. We don't really pay a lot of attention to, the beauty of what it is. And back to the pain part of it, and the, whatever, the shames and the traumas and the embarrassments and whatnot, like, we'll bring them with us in so many different ways. And we find, at least I see this quite a bit, at least in myself and some other people, in terms of, you're just going to project that onto the future. Right. And so back to the whole gym part of it, like, use it to your advantage, but know that like, hey, it's not going to necessarily get away from the situation. At some point, you've got to actually go back to the root, figure out why those things are the way that they are, solve for the, I don't want to call it the trauma, because I think that word gets overused today, but figure out what is the root to this thing so that you can make amends with it, use the gym intentionally and effectively, and move forward. But the beauty of the whole thing, I think, really still just comes back to a handful of people who are working on their own process of becoming, because I think we all are. And I think so many people are still so hell bent on, what do I have to do? Like for me in this point in my life, there's a giant uncoupling of like, hey, there's not a lot of work left to be done. There's a lot more to appreciate that's already been done. And I think so many, at
You're
least
entering the fall phase. That's called the fall phase.
Oh, the 4 phases. It comes back. I
You're
love it.
entering the fall phase is
Yeah.
what that's called, Tony.
yes,
And it's
more probably
interesting,
like the winter.
Jay, I mean, we hear these words we use all the time, right? And I try to pick up on myself, but it's always easier to hear them in other people, right? But like the shoulds and ought tos, and like who's telling you that's what you should do, man? Like, is it what you should do? You know, you can do it. Yeah, you can do more maybe, but maybe you don't. You know, like those statements, the should statements in myself, like, man, the reaction to not doing something that I should do, shame and embarrassment. Because I'm like, fuck, I'm a lazy piece of shit. I didn't do it, dude. I'm shameful. I'm embarrassed. I'm measuring up to other people that, they're on social media, at least. I'm speaking to myself, Jay, not you. Like, I look at people sometimes on social media and starting new businesses and working 14 hours. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'm not doing that, dude. I should be, though. And I'm not. So I don't measure up. I'm not as good. I'm not good enough.
Yeah. And then it goes to that scene in Liar Liar where, Jim Carrey's beating himself up in the bathroom. The guy walks in on him. He's like, I'm kicking my own ass. Do you mind? Because that's what I do. I kick my own ass. I'm like beating myself up.
That's great.
It's amazing. Yeah. Like if you, Jay, because I know you're a good friend. So it's like if you take that same situation and you're like, I didn't lift enough today. I didn't do this. Like all the things that you're kicking yourself for. If you just turn yourself into a friend and be like, well, what would I say to my friend? Like, yeah. I guarantee it's softer. Like,
yeah, or
I know you. So like, I know that like, you'd come out and be like, oh, hey man, like, don't worry about it. Like to Mike's, example, right? Like, oh, well, like, do you want to work 14 hours a day? Do you want to like start the new business? Is that something you want to do? Like, no. Okay. Well then who gives a shit? Like, that's not for you, but like, don't compare yourself, I'm like, it's just, it's an irrelevant thing, but like, we can always be so much softer except to ourselves. Like, it's so hard to just be like, oh yeah, what I did today was fine. It's great. It's what I had in the tank. It's whatever. It's just a day. It's a Wednesday morning. I did the workout. I showed up. Who cares?
Well, no, in deep down, Jay, sometimes I feel, because, I feel like why sometimes subconsciously you hurt yourself so bad in workouts is you have a fear of death. Because really, you're like, if I did this hard, I didn't die. And I don't mean that in like, it's a legitimate way. I know, at least for me, when I look back, why do I work out so hard? Why do I've dug a lot of holes here. It's because I was afraid of how unhealthy my family was, because they always talked about dying of heart disease or dying of this or that. Mm. And so, and everyone, my father died when I was young and people died and this and that. So I'd be like, shit. And then, so if I can work out so hard that I'm almost dead, then it'll be a lot harder to kill me. And there's some truth in that, right? But ultimately, if your nervous system, your heart, all this stuff thinks that you're going to fight a lion when you go upstairs because you work out at such high intensity, then you will constantly be in a state of fight. And it's weird because that sounds like kind of quirky, but it's been proven now. But nobody wants to hear that in CrossFit because that's a little edgy, right? Because intensity. It's actually becoming a Clydesdale horse. Like, what can you just actually do and kind of maintain at an okay heart rate, look really good doing it? Kind of like Rich Froning. Remember how he used to just win the games passively? Just like, oh, yeah, time. Like that is the ultimate health, really. Like, I just still think he was a very healthy guy. And yeah, you don't have to work out that hard to do that.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because it reminds me also, like, fuck, even with like Wim Hof breathing, like I would get to the point where I'd hold my breath for so long because I get close to that, get the tingles, everything starts closing in on me, and I'm just like, I'm getting close to death. Yes, yes, yes. You know, it's like, that's fucking morbid.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that? Why am I chasing that?
You're wanting to broaden the margins of your experience.
Exactly.
Why not? You know, I think that's okay. I think it's back to Tony's point. Like, it's what's the intention behind it, you know? And Mike, I'm sure as you went through your journey, like what I would imagine is that you set an intention, you know, ahead of time, and, you know, share that if you want. I'm not asking you to, but I think it's really interesting when, you know, like you focus all your energy on the intention, and like, and hopefully somebody challenges the intention. Like, wow, what's going on there? You know, with like, Mike, you already mentioned this, so I'll just jump with it. But like, oh, I had a lot of walls up. Well, I imagine if we checked in with Mike mid-journey, he'd be like, no walls, 0 walls. They are
Open concept.
They're rubble. You know,
the walls dissolved, and so did, you know, consciousness to some extent during that experience, for sure. My intention, dude, very simple, somewhat broad, but relevant, was to let go of what no longer serves me. Because I knew I was carrying a lot of baggage. I knew I'd been through a lot of stuff, and I was aware enough at that time to know that, like, I just catastrophize everything, and I'm always looking for what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And I'm like, I understood enough to know why I felt that way, but I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to stop it. I'm like, dude, I get it. I'm trying to protect myself from something that will probably never come, and I don't even know what it is. And it's because of...
Dude, it's because you don't know, because a human brain is not supposed to be able to process love. Now, I will not get biblical on that one because Tony caught me. But you can't actually process love. It doesn't exist until you can only feel it, right?
Yeah.
So you think about it this way. No one loves me like I love my kids. But if I love my kids this way, someone at some point loved me this way, or still does. But from this vantage point, you're like, well, I only love them like this. It's impossible that someone felt that way about me. But it's true. Someone did, or something still does. And so that is the point where it's like, when you try, it's like outer space.
Yeah. I mean, that love of your kids, man, like, wow, there's a lot of ways to describe that love, but this idea of seeing the potential in your kids, like, that's what you see every fucking time. And I don't mean potential like, oh, they're going to be a doctor. I just mean, dude, like, the amazing person they're going to be. You look at them and you're like, my kids blow my mind sometimes with that, dude. Or I'm just like, God dang, these kids are amazing. They're just amazing. And I don't mean in behavior and all that, just in everything about them. And if you have kids, you get it. You just stare at them and you're like, God, you know, like, all the potential, all you can be, all the being that's possible out of this one individual. Like, it's beautiful, and you stare at them that way. But it's hard to let people love you that way, man. Like you said, it's not hard to rationalize it, for sure. But back to your point, Gary, is like, that was my intention, man. And when I stopped shaking, I don't know where I went. And it was like I was like losing consciousness, dude. Like, I have no idea what happened. And then I would kind of come back into my body. It's not like that, but that's what it felt like. You come back to your body. I remember moving my hands around and being like, what the hell just happened? And I remember trying to put language to what I felt, what was given to me while I was in this other, wherever the hell I was, right? And I know this is kind of getting in some weird areas here, but it's exactly what it felt like. Is when I came back and I felt like I was in my body again, I tried to put language to the lesson of what I got out of that chunk of time. And the minute I started to put language to it, I'd leave again.
Mm-hmm.
And it did that over and over and over again until it stopped. Yeah. And it was simple messages, dude. It was what we talked about. It was like, man, like my kids deserve the best of me more than just fucking birthdays and holidays daily. Right. And like, I tried to show love of like making it the best birthday they can have or making holidays the best I can. And it's like, fuck, dude, I need to show up. I don't need to be over the top. I just need to show up every day. Every day.
Magnetiles,
Legos, whatever it is, fucking snowmen. You know?
Snowmen. Yes.
That kind of stuff. The other part is like this connection with everyone else. Like, dude, there's this feeling of like, dude, you're not the only one, right? Like the world doesn't act upon you anymore. We're all connected. Everyone, like just the five of us, we're talking about similar shit that we've experienced, that we're trying to do, that, trying to become, all those different things. And you realize at some point, and whatever you want to call this, dissolving of the ego, whatever it is, right? But like, dude, the world's not fucking acting upon me. I'm an actor in the world with everyone else. Yeah. And dude, there's something powerful about that. Because guess what? I feel a lot better knowing that we're going through this together than I'm the only one going through this.
Totally. Yeah.
And there are many others, but those are
what is cool about this conversation with us here is that all of us were drawn to the coaching field, right? Like we all found our way into this, lived in the space in the ecosystem in an effort essentially to pour ourselves into other people and their pursuits to help them, right? But like what's unique to that is that, in my opinion at least, coaching is just purely the transfer of belief, right? And so we all have this really high innate ability to believe in other people. And one of the cool parts of this conversation, this story, and it's really a conversation that I've had with all of you guys individually, is our inability to accept the belief that other people have in us, which is ironic because some of the people on this and some other people I've talked to would be considered some of the best coaches in this space, right? Like they are way at the top. And so you would think, oh, they must be great because they believe in themselves. But it's really, in my experience, to be quite the opposite, right? It's much easier for me to pour belief in other people than to accept belief back to me. And so back to the point of this infinitely scalable podcast, like if you're going to be a great coach, at some point you're going to have to confront this reality and your own ability to believe in yourself. And I'm not saying everybody suffers from this, but I do know that a good chunk of the recognizable best coaches in this space suffer from this exact same thing. And we will pour ourselves tirelessly into this thing. And so I do think it's just so cool to, hear, and beautiful really to hear everybody agree. Like it's so hard to hear the way our children think of us or our significant other or our parents. And we're like, because for me personally, I wake up every day and try to literally, kill myself from yesterday, right? I want to kill the last version of myself. I want to be a better version today. I want to be a better version tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And when someone comes along and says, hey, you're beautiful, you're like, you don't really know, right? Like you don't get it, right? Like I'm only beautiful because like if you just saw what I did yesterday and the day before to get here, and that's just all bullshit, right? So I think it's cool to see so many people step into this conversation and like, vulnerability. Because what is cool about this podcast for me is that on this screen are a handful of people who have become late life really close friends to me. Then, yeah, sure, we were CrossFit cousins and we lived in the space together, but like Andrew was very accidental, pulled into a podcast, clicked, right? Carrie randomly at a summit, clicked. Same with Mike G, same thing, Jay, affiliate gathering. And the thing about that made that possible was that when I met each one of you guys, I was more interested in curiosity than I was certainty or absolution. I didn't want to. What's unique to that, though, is old me, even 5 years ago, we're all type A. The first thing I would have wanted to do in that room is beat somebody, right? Mm-hmm. I got to beat somebody. Mike G's here, right? I got to impress him. Carrie's here. I got to impress him. Andrew's here. I got to impress him. Jay's here. But then through the work and through that sort of journey that we're all on, I had nothing to prove, and I was able to just essentially be vulnerable. And now you guys have all became truly some of my best friends. And I owe you guys a large debt of gratitude, but mostly it's that I believe in you guys so much, and when you can reciprocate that back to me, I can start to accept that. And so, first of all, thank you guys for being able to do that for me. But if people listening to this can step into a space where they can make late life good friends, right? And they can do
I
so.
said mate right there. I was like, wait a minute, Tony,
Well,
that was
Andrew,
very kind,
but
but
you leave
we
your
can't mate.
Catholicism and your mating out of this, because we'll come back to your religion later, right? But if you can get in this place where you can develop these new friendships through vulnerability and through curiosity, that whole thing applies itself so beautifully towards the service and relationship business that they're all trying to build. And so, for a micro lesson in terms of how to be a better affiliate owner, maybe just start with being a better person. And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense and that you're a bad person. Just put the wall down, right? Like, Mike and I wouldn't have been good friends if I would have had my wall up that I normally had up. Same with him. If he had his walls up, we would have probably likely been two former New Yorkers who just teed off at each other, right? And our only way to relate would have been like, who's going to win in the workout? And that would have been our relationship, is performance based. Same with Kerry. I'd have been like, he seems fit and good looking. I should peacock right now, right? Andrew, I didn't think I'd even like the kid. I was like, this arrogant little fucker. But I was like, oh, I love him. He's like a big dumb animal. I want to hug him. Right. And so and Jay I didn't even know Jay. I met him. I was like, not even remotely the person I thought that he was, because I had heard about him. And so that part of it is just, it's fun, and I think that there's a lot to it.
But Tony, that was so kind. And hear me out. And this kind of goes back to the not worrying about what people think. Because if any male wants to clip this, or Tony, that was so like sensitive and like I will give you my address. You can come to my house. You can try to take me down, because you're going to fail, because this is what men should do. You know what I mean? And so like that's where I feel like if we can get that message across, you can be type A, alpha, etc. The most alpha thing you can do is talk like this to other dudes. And if you want to test me, I will meet you anywhere. Do you know what I mean? So, but I have the confidence in that because I train, because of all those things. And like, and so that's what's so cool about what you just said, Tony. Like, you're welcome. I'll receive your compliment on that, and I know we all will. But like, any dude listen to be like, God, those guys are fucking pussies. I'd be like, you want the smoke, baby? Because you don't want the smoke.
But that's still hung up in the idea that like the only way we can solve anything is through physical violence, right?
Totally.
Which, like, don't get me wrong, like the vast majority of the world thinks that way. That's why people watch football. Which like it's absurd to me how like that captivates the world, that like we're like, everybody's getting brain damage here. We're all signing up for this. This is great. We've made it into this whole spectacle that it is. Anyway, that's a total sidebar, but it's
that's built into us though, right? To some extent. I mean, dude, we think about, my culture. I went and visited Rome and looked at the Colosseum, and dude, like we need to identify with the hero, and to some extent, the football team becomes our hero, right? And like they're winning or losing is like we identify. People get unbelievably attached to a football team.
Mm-hmm.
They cry, they get pissed off, they won't talk to their family for a couple of days because they lost, and it's like, you didn't do shit, dude. You just watched the TV. Like, how are you identified with them so much that you're going to let this ruin your day? But that's, dude, like that is an unfortunate part of human nature for us. I mean, we've done that for a long time. Not to say that it's right, but we're at a point now where like we don't have to do that.
It's a perceived acceptable release of emotion.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not a bitch. If I go to the game, I'm a 50-year-old man in full body paint. I've totally abandoned my family at home because I really want to escape my life. And I know every player and every stat because I've been playing fantasy football for 25 years. And that's where I've been present, is like on the computer with total strangers that score arbitrary points. But now I can cry over this thing because I'm so emotionally invested in it, because I'm not processing emotion elsewhere. And if, like we all know, if I'm not processing it, it will fucking spill out in the worst place and at the worst time you could ever want it. So good luck,
Yeah, dude. God, yeah. Well, yeah, it will spill out. It doesn't typically spill out the way you want it to. Right? For me, like it would come out in anger and bursts like that. But I will say this, dude. The last year since that experience, I've probably. I mean, this is gonna go back to what Andrew said. Dude, people can call me a bitch all they want. I don't give a fuck. But I have cried more in this year than I have in 2 decades.
Easily.
At the right times and for the right reasons. Like, because I was dealing with some sad shit that went on in my life, and it was okay to let it go and fucking cry it out, dude, and not be embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. Like when my father passed away, I don't remember crying. I was pissed. I was mad. I held on to that anger for a long, long time, and it came out in a lot of like my emotions came out in other ways. I did know when my sister passed last October, I wouldn't be able to do it. I knew at that moment, like I can't do it. There's got to have to be a different way because I won't be able to handle it this time. Not like that. It's going to come out in some really bad ways. That's what kind of led me to that experience. But my point to that is, yeah, dude, like once like, you let emotions come out when they're supposed to come out, how they're supposed to come out, you let yourself feel them. Way better. Nothing to be embarrassed about.
Yeah.
No.
In fact, dude, like my kids seeing that, God, like I want my kids to be able to feel their emotions. Like I tell my daughter all the time, she's 13, like feel them. Dude, have all the emotions you want. Just don't take them out on other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Those are your guidelines.
Totally.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch a kid because they're the perfect example of this. It's kind of like what we've always talked about with like, oh, look at that baby squat, you know, and then we're gonna go fuck it up and like they won't have that air squat when they're 25, you know. But kids process emotion and they're feeling so well. They go from I'm even keel to like you're not gonna play, you know, that song again, like full devastation, right? I'm crying, and then to rage, right? I've got all this anger, like why, you know, and you know, start to hit and whatever because they don't know how to, you know, handle any of that because they don't have rational brains. You might have rational brain children, but mine's under 6. So, and then they're out of it like that, and they processed all of it. They don't really know what happened, but then they come back to, and then they're fine again. And it's like all of that was felt. None of it's going to get bottled up. None of it's going to spill out wonky some other way. It all just happened in real time. And that's amazing and beautiful. It doesn't feel like that as you're fucking riding the roller coaster with them. But if you know that going in, holy shit, it's like, oh, this'll go away. He's just feeling it all.
The glorious irony of life is that anger is weakness, right? I think it takes us a long time to get to that point. Back to Andrew's point of toxicity, and you know, kind of like Mike was just saying, like anger is easy. It's the easiest one. It's the easiest emotion to go to. It's the control, right? You know, back to Jay's point of going into the gym and just crushing yourself. It's easier to choose anger than to choose curiosity. It's easier to choose anger and destruction than it is to choose responsibility. And so, you know, as somebody, I spent most of my life incredibly destructive, incredibly angry, like literally court ordered angry. Right? And so much, that's why people who from like my childhood know me, they're like, you do what now? I'm like, help people. Right. And the reason for that is that I was angry. So much of my life was out of control. It was easier for me to choose anger. And I made so many mistakes. And so a lot of my life now, I feel like is paying a bit of a penance to that. But it's one of the things that I talk a lot about is being able to step into the active observer versus the active participant role, which is kind of what Mike just said. And, you know, being able to appreciate that, you know, Sonder, to some degree, we're all experiencing life in this moment differently. And to be able to observe that as opposed to be a participant and be complicit in the anger or in the moment or in the emotion or whatever that is, and to just sit and appreciate what's happening around you. And when you can step into that, it's a superpower, honestly. It becomes a profound level of patience. It's not easy. It's way easier to get mad. It's way easier to want to change something, hurt something, break something, fix something than it is to be like, why do I want to feel that way about this? What is that saying? And if you can do that, you can confront almost any situation, and to the point where you'll you can elicit a lot of rage at other people when all of a sudden you become an observer when they want you to be a participant, and they're like, you'll immediately rage bait them. So that's pretty softly there. But I think it's a very cool thing, but it is easier to be angry, right? To Andrew's point, like, meet me at the door. Yeah, that would be way easier. Like, let's just use violence. Let's just be physical, because like I can control that. It's either going to hurt or it's not. One of us is leaving here the victor. When you don't do that, it's like, how do I know I won? Can I win? Is there a winning thing? Is there a loser? Am I good? Am I bad? Should I be embarrassed? Am I ashamed? I must take this out on you, right? Like, there's just it's such a microcosm of emotions, but anger is easy. And that's the hardest thing, is to like, I still feel like climb up your back, up your neck, and you're like 99, 98, 97, you can back it back down and step back into that thing. And kids, I mean, I'm the only one on here without kids, so I feel like I'm the imposter here, but I love to watch all of you guys with kids, because, dude, they'll just rage bait the shit out of you guys. It's so fascinating to watch. I'm like, got it so under control, and all of a sudden, Carrie, I can see him being like 99, 98. And so it's a cool thing to watch humans become humans, especially all of us, because we're old now. And Mike, to your point about your sister, like, what's great about that is that I know when that happened, that's when you and I became friends. And so, like, out of a terrible moment in your life, and it was a terrible moment in my life too, like, at least that, I have a friendship to show for that. And that to me is meaningful.
Dude, I will tell you, I don't even quite know how to say this without it sounding absolutely terrible and potentially insensitive. And if you guys know me, you know where I'm going with this when I say it, because it's not in the literal sense. I don't mean it. But my sister passing may be one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, like, it has made me appreciate life and the relationships with the people around me and my kids, like, more than I ever have. And it was like, it killed some bad shit inside of me, dude. And, like, obviously I'd much rather have my sister here, but it might be the thing that ends up, like, changing we'll call it the happiness trajectory of my life, as fucked up as that sounds.
No, it doesn't.
No, not at all. There's inflection points, right? If you're just looking at your life, on a timeline, like, it's just a thing that broke the rhythm for you, and rightfully so, of course. Like, I've experienced that as well. And I've had that conversation with my wife where I'm like, oh, was that, same thing. Is this insensitive that it's better that, like, my mom died and I learned about these things and I know so much more about myself because of that? Like, mm-hmm. It's not saying anything about who you are. It's just, that was the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the crazy shit. Cause Carrie, it's the same thing. Like, I know, like, my mom died almost a year ago when my daughter was being born.
Yeah.
The same time, the exact same time. This isn't like we're not crossing stories, but
no, of course.
When my wife came in and was like, what are you gonna, like crying, like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. It's been my biggest year my entire life, since it was just me and her, but I got it. I'm going to figure it out. And she's just like, what? I don't know. Like, there's a thing where and ever since that day, there's, it did so many things for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the number one thing you go to is, where I went to is, like, my kids lost their grandmother, because I was raised enough by her to be strong to be able to get this. So I'm going to do what she taught me to do right now as best she could, and just be there for the kids. So it's like, you get those little things. I don't think it's insensitive. That long story, I don't think that's insensitive.
I think some of our biggest lessons in life are built through suffering, man. Are created through suffering. And it's just,
hey, I got a great book on that one. Tony.
The ultimate book of learning through suffering. Yes.
Yeah, we got a great book on that one.
Yeah. There is a blueprint of that for sure, but it's
Yeah.
true.
I think the summation of all this is, that's probably why we're all friends. We love shared suffering, right? It's what
Dude, we're all going to be famous after this podcast.
CrossFit brought us all together.
We're certainly going to be more approachable because we're no longer the assholes in the room, right? Like, and I guess to that point of suffering, like, I'm incredibly proud of the dudes that you guys have become. And like, I love each of you guys for the journey that you're all on. And I'm grateful to be a part of that in some degree and at least know you guys. But like, if I can see a handful of really identifiably, well, just use the word alpha dudes become better men, hopefully other people can, and that's not what the point of this podcast is supposed to be about, but fame or otherwise, I hope people realize that, like, oh, they saw something of themselves in this, because I think there's enough of a lot of people in each one of us to help people realize, like, oh, other people feel that too, and to reach out. I mean, all of us are immediately reachable. I think that's the good part about all of us, is that all of us have a fairly public sort of ability to be communicated with. And if for some reason you're listening to this and like you resonated with it, or you're like, well, you too, and just reach out. I mean, there's nothing here to sell you or to take advantage of you. Like, all of us just want to help you guys. But to me personally, it's very rewarding to put a group of people like this together on a podcast who are willing to share this so publicly, and so vulnerably in a world where I think everybody would be like, didn't see that coming from those guys. Right. Like, and so I'm very proud of you guys for doing that. It's not easy to do.
Oh, thank you, man. I feel the same way. I do. I think these moments are some of the most powerful moments, and to Andrew's point, like, this is part of being a man, and men should do this more.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's like this or sitting around a fire and just telling your story, dude. Like, there is something profoundly powerful about telling your story to people who are willing to listen.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll bring the matches to the fire. Who's got the fire ring?
Damn, how great would that be? That's the next thing. Let's go snowboarding and then finish up by sitting by a fire somewhere outside.
That.
Yeah, awesome.
I know
I'm
a guy.
not even going to get into that, Mike. You and I, we've got too many email or message exchanges being like, this weekend? Okay, no.
I know.